What's the thala? Do I have recommendations for Anglo-Saxon paganism? Like the entire bookshelf behind me? I absolutely do. Let me give you some highlights though. If nothing else, pick up Signals of Belief in Early England. It is a collection of papers by numerous archaeologists, such as Sarah Semple, who does some amazing work on comparing different monuments in England. Martin Carver, who actually excavated at Sutton Hoo a couple times in his career, and Professor Howard Williams, also known as TikTok's own Archaeodeath, so also give him a follow. So this has got a lot of useful bits of information. Yeavering, People, Place, and Power is a worthwhile read simply because the evil temperamental complex goes through several stages of development and therefore gives us a lot of insight into the development of Anglo-Saxon pagan religion, so definitely worth a read. And then we've got Lady with a Mead Cup, while Yeavering and Signals of Belief give you a pretty good idea of the actual structures and how this gives you a better idea of how they were used, especially with rituals such as Sumbul and Blolt. Then, of course, there is Beowulf, because this book goes through a lot of descriptions of Sumbul in ritual, some of the best descriptions that you can find, actually, whether you're talking Anglo-Saxon paganism and beyond. It's just really good descriptions and incredibly useful, especially when you look in concert with Yeavering and the temple complex and the structure, and then look at the writings in Lady with the Mead Cup. Gives you a pretty good idea of how those rituals would have been performed. I also just want to show off this absolutely gorgeous copy that I got for my birthday this year from my mom. It's just beautiful. I'm going to fawn over it all day. For the actual calendar, it's going to be Bede's The Reckoning of Time. Unfortunately, he is our best source of information. He does go into reasonable amount of detail, but he does leave a lot of things unexplained, and some things he seems to be just plain out wrong about, and a lot of things are just guesswork. It's the best we got, unfortunately. But Ronald Hutton in The Stations of the Sun also goes into detail about various holidays in the early medieval period, particularly with the Anglo-Saxons and so forth. It discusses a little bit about that. It was written in the 90s, so it is a little bit dated, but it's still a decent source of information and is cited a lot in a lot of later academic texts and so forth. Neil Price cites it every once in a while too. Ronald Hutton is an absolute kook, and I mean that in the best way. As for the actual gods, Heathen Gods in Old English Literature is a pretty good source, written in the 70s, so, you know, a little dated. But it is very much what it says on the tin, Heathen Gods in Old English Literature. So it goes into detail about what was actually written about various Anglo-Saxon gods, which is mostly Woden and Ingwa, and there really isn't a lot written about Anglo-Saxon gods. It's amazing he got a book this big, considering. If you don't mind going through an incredibly tedious linguistic adventure, Elves in Anglo-Saxon England by Alric Hall is worth a read. Like I said, it is a lot of linguistics, so it can be a bit tedious. Pagan Goddesses in the Early Germanic World is likewise also a bit of a tedious linguistic read, but also pretty interesting nonetheless. And finally, just get anthologies of Old English poetry and stuff. It's, if nothing else, fun and entertaining to read, and it is advisable if you can find one. They're not too hard to find, but one that has the modern English translation on one side and the Old English on the other side. It's just fun to read, especially if you're familiar with Old English, to like go back and forth and compare the translation. That was a lot of books, but those were the highlights of my personal library. Again, the Signals of Belief in Early England is a pretty good foundational text. It's got a lot of different subjects, and if you combine it with a lot of primary sources such as Beowulf, various poetry, as well as various writings by Bede, you'll get a pretty decent idea of history, ritual, and the places that those rituals took place in. So I hope that helps you.